Well, good afternoon and welcome to H360 Live. My name is Dave Duplay, and joining me here in the studio is my friend and colleague from Healthy h360, Miss Courtland Law. Well, Courtland, it's good to see you today.
Good to see you, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing great. So this weather is finally, giving us a break. It was so humid the last couple weeks here in New York City, and the rain yesterday, but it's finally calming down. And I think we're in for some great fall weather over the next couple weeks.
We are. It's getting a little chilly in the mornings, but still a little humid in the afternoon, too.
Absolutely. Well, we have a great show for you this afternoon. Evelyn Gomez is going to be joining us. And Evelyn has a fantastic story. She is a breast cancer survivor. She runs 5Ks at Yankee Stadium, no less. We're going to talk to her about that. And she has a connection to the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, which we, Courtland, as you know, are big fans of.
We certainly are big fans. A couple weeks ago, we had Lorraine Egan, who's the president of the foundation, on our show, and today we're very happy to be joined by Evelyn Gomez. And Evelyn, we'd like to thank you so much for joining us. We're so honored to have you to share your inspiring journey of breast cancer with us. And so we'll just jump right in. Can you give us a little bit of background on, how you were diagnosed?
Certainly, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I watch your show, and I think you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
I am a breast cancer survivor, as you mentioned, and I was diagnosed just 3 months after having given birth to my son, and it was a bit of a shock. Not something I expected to hear. In 2008 I got engaged, in 2009 I got married, in 2010 I had my son, and then I was told I had breast cancer. So it was sort of a shock, something I wasn't expecting.
So Evelyn, so let's see. You're engaged 1 year, the next year you're married, the following year you're pregnant, and then you get the diagnosis. Take us back to that day. How did you know something was wrong? What led you to go in and see the doctor? Was it a routine visit, or what was going on?
Well, I actually I noticed that I felt a lump, and I mentioned it to my gynecologist. This was while I was actually pregnant, or had just recently given birth, and she said, "Oh, it's probably a clogged milk duct. Go home, warm compress, massage. If that doesn't work, check back in with me at our next follow-up appointment, and then we'll get an ultrasound of it." And it hadn't gone away, and so I scheduled an ultrasound, and it was at the ultrasound that we discovered that it was actually not a clogged milk duct, but a tumor. And my diagnosis was triple negative breast cancer, which was actually one of the more aggressive kinds of breast cancer with a high rate of recurrence. So if it wasn't scary enough, being a brand new mom, I found out that I had this really aggressive form of breast cancer. But I'm very fortunate to have been diagnosed at the time that I was at stage 2. And my husband, who's my best friend, has been a great support to me. My doctors were excellent. They sort of fit me in where they could and got me into exams and chemotherapy, and I ultimately had surgery and radiation. And it was all, funny to say, ended up being a sort of a really positive experience, because it could have gone in a very different direction.
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. I just want to add one point. Self-diagnosis, right? Self-exams, it's so important.
So important.
So important. And not just for women, for men as
Yes.
well, right?
For men as well.
When you're in the shower, take a little time, examine yourself, because if it weren't for you feeling that, right, you could have had a negative outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, Evelyn, unfortunately, you are not the first woman who's been on our show who was diagnosed with cancer shortly after giving birth. About a year ago around this time, we had Connie on. She had a brain tumor, and it was discovered after giving birth. And it's always sad but interesting to hear about how this affects one's duties as a mother. So, how were you able to go through all of your treatment while also trying to care for your newborn baby at home?
Well, it was difficult because this was my first son, and ultimately I think he's just the one. So I was still sort of getting the hang of it. I distinctly remember when it was time for me to take him home from the hospital, it was like, okay, I'm taking him, you sure? And it was very important for me to breastfeed, and that was something that I had to stop doing because I had to run all sorts of tests, and ultimately started on my chemotherapy regimen. So that was sort of a big blow to me because, like many new moms, I was sort of struggling with nursing, and I felt like, you know, we had finally gotten into the swing of things. I finally had a handle on it, and then I had to just stop. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with formula. I'm thankful that I was able to nurse for as long as I was, and my husband, again, was a great support, and it meant that he got a chance to jump in on the feedings as well, and, you know, he jumped in and didn't lose a beat, and it was difficult with scheduling. You know, you're supposed to be settling your child into a nice sleep pattern. I felt like all of these things I was supposed to do and I didn't end up doing. Now I know, you know, there's really no rule book.
Yeah.
You know, but back then you feel like you're supposed to do A, B, C, and D, and all these appointments were all over the place, and so it was hard to keep a steady schedule. After I had surgery, I couldn't pick him up, so I had to have friends come out and help me with that. So it was definitely challenging trying to figure out how to be a mom while trying to fight cancer, but you know, we made it work.
So remind me again, so that you were diagnosed with a rare, aggressive type of cancer. What was that type again?
It's triple hormone negative, or triple negative.
Triple negative.
Yes.
And so it being a kind of a more rare breast cancer and aggressive, were there clinical trials that you were enrolled in, or, you know, your treatment regimen, was it a standard regimen for this type of cancer, or did you participate in a clinical trial for a new and innovative therapy?
Well, I did end up participating in a clinical trial, which was actually really helpful, I felt, because, you know, all the while, as I said, first we did the chemo, then we did the surgery, then we did the radiation, and it felt like I was doing something to fight, you know, like, I'm not just going to let this take over my life, I'm going to fight back. And then after it was all done and over, it's not uncommon for people to go on sort of post-surgery meds for about 5 years, but with the triple negative diagnosis, there isn't any medication for that sort of time period. So the clinical trial made me feel like I was still in it to fight the good fight.
Sure.
And in actuality, it was for metformin, which is a common diabetes medication. It was found, it looked like diabetic women who also had the triple negative diagnosis were experiencing a lower rate of recurrence, and so they were trying to determine if it was the metformin medicine that they were on. So I spoke about it with my oncologist. We got me into a double-blind clinical trial, which actually just came to a close earlier this year.
Wow.
Awesome.
That's really exciting. So we started the episode sharing that you run in the Damon Runyon Cancer Research 5Ks. So as I think many of our viewers know, the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, they fund scientists who are doing these research projects and clinical trials.
Yes.
I assume the trial you were in was a Damon Runyon trial?
It wasn't actually a
Okay.
Damon Runyon trial, but they do fund all sorts of research and for scientists, and they've churned out a whole bunch of Nobel Prize winners, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
And you know, I know firsthand that clinical trials are really important. And one of the things that appealed to me with the Damon Runyon 5K is the fact that 100% of the donations that they collect goes directly to research. It doesn't cover anything else. The money that they've collected goes directly to the research, and 100% of it. So that was definitely appealing to me. And even though I was a breast cancer survivor, even though I am a breast cancer survivor, I've been touched by cancer in other ways. Many of us have. You know, we've all got family members and friends. My father passed away from cancer. My father-in-law is a cancer survivor. One of my best friends who helped me take care of my son after surgery, her mother had recently died of lung cancer, so it was sort of therapeutic for her to come and help me with my child because she had just experienced losing her mother. So it was important for me to focus not just on a charity that was just breast cancer, but all kinds of cancer research, and Damon and Runyon just fit the bill because they do great stuff.
Yeah, they are such a great organization, and they're bringing together the best young minds in science. And it's really fascinating to hear, and even their whole selection process, very competitive. I mean, this is the cream of the crop, right?
Yeah.
So, breast cancer survivor, 5K, but also you raise a lot of money. So the 5K is an event where you go out and you get people to sponsor you for running, I take it. And so you were a top fundraiser for Damon Runyon. And so preparing for your 5Ks, take me through, how do you prepare? I mean, you're very busy, a young child, working, all this stuff going on in your life. What's your training regimen look like for the 5K?
Well, I wake up, I go, oh my God, I gotta run again. No. When it's in the summer, I tend to wake up super early before my son gets up and I go out running. There's a park that's actually right across the street from my house, and there's an incline. So on the way down, I'm super happy, and on the way up, I'm like, oh gosh. But I think it helps with the stairs and the ramps at the Yankee Stadium, so I try to keep that in mind, and it also helps me keep track of just how far I'm going to make sure that I'm hitting where I need to be so I can complete the 5K without looking too much like a red-faced crazy person. And even though it's a race, I like to use that term loosely because it's not a competition. Everyone is just coming together and raising money for a great foundation. And you go at your own pace, so I tend to start sort of slow and I ease my way into it because what's more important is that I finish.
Yeah.
And not, that I do it the fastest in Jackson Heights, because I'm sure I'm not the fastest in Jackson Heights.
Yeah. So now, given that it's in Yankee Stadium, one of the cathedrals of baseball, do you run in pinstripes?
I don't, but that's a good idea. Maybe I should.
Yeah, I think so. I think that would be cool, right?
I think we should find some pinstripe athletic clothes for you.
I'm going to work on that.
I'm all for it.
Okay.
Good suggestion.
So aside from physical fitness and being able to finish the 5K, what role does running play in your life? Do you find it to be sort of therapeutic and meditative?
Yes. I have to fess up. I don't run the entire year.
That's okay, neither do I.
Thank you. I do fit it into my schedule when I can, though, and it is definitely therapeutic. I find it amusing that one of the things that you're told in the battle is, stress is really bad for you. Dude, I don't know if you noticed, but cancer's kind of stressful. So running definitely helps with the stress, and it's just you and your feet, smacking the road, and so it's definitely a little time for myself to just let my mind wander without worrying too much about, what else I'm supposed to be doing, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to ask, are you a Yankees fan?
I am a lifelong Yankee fan.
Lifelong?
Yes,
okay.
I even used to eat Reggie Jackson bars when I was a kid.
Serious? Wow, all right.
I can remember when they were in last place and everybody hated them. I stayed strong.
Well, that's a sign of a quality fan, lifelong fan. So it's got to be exciting for you. You're in Yankee Stadium. You're running a 5K. You're raising money for an organization that you're so passionate about. And then, so you run around the stadium, and then does it culminate with you're down on the track, right? I mean, you're right there where the players walk and play the game. How exciting is that?
Well, I do have to say it's the warning track, and it's sort of right in the middle. But as a girl, it's the only way I'm getting on the warning track. There's no girls allowed in baseball, so. But it's really exciting. They put you up on the jumbotron, so it's really a great feeling to be running out there waving to all of your supporters in the stands and being up on the jumbotron. My husband is a Met fan.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry to divulge that. Aiden, my son, was sort of neutral, but now that we live in Queens, it was sort of difficult to try to get him on the Yankee side. He too is a Met fan, but they put their differences aside and come support me at Yankee Stadium.
There
So
you go.
I even convinced my husband to run with me this year
Oh, wow.
around Yankee Stadium, and he did an
All right.
awesome job.
Wow,
That's
that is
great.
really cool.
Yeah.
So can you describe for us a little bit the atmosphere of what it's like at these 5Ks? I'm sure there's a little bit of buzz in the air, a lot of excitement going on, you
Yes.
know, for people who are survivors of many years and people who are new survivors and even patients currently.
Yes, and also people who are not cancer survivors but running in memory of someone that they may have lost. One of the great things that the Damon Runyon Foundation does is they offer a tribute slide for people to post pictures of. And so I thought that that was actually a really nice touch. When you go around the warning track, if you're lucky enough to be there when your picture is up, you can sort of wave to whomever it is that you're honoring with the race. And like I said, even though it's called a race, it's not a competition. And I think that that's something that comes through. You see all sorts of teams there with shirts for people they're supporting, whether it's someone they lost or someone who's a survivor. You see younger kids who are probably faster than I am, but it doesn't really make a difference. There's also a walk, so if you can't run it, you can walk it, so there's really no pressure. It's just coming out and supporting the foundation and what it means to you and however cancer managed to touch your life. I remember the very first year I stood next to a gentleman online, and he was telling me he wasn't sure if he was going to do it. He had recently lost his father, but he decided to come on down and do it. And I said, oh, well, I'm really glad that you managed to come down. I gave him a great big hug. We were just about to run. I said, I'm sorry, we didn't even introduce ourselves. My name is Evelyn. And he burst out laughing. And I thought, that's not really a funny, I don't know. But he went on to explain that his mother's name was Evelyn. And she's no longer with us, but he felt like this is definitely a sign that I'm where I need to be.
Yeah.
And that speaks volumes. That alone is a reason to come out and support,
Yeah. So speaking of supporting the foundation for a great cause, you're one of the top fundraisers. Tell us about the fundraising process. What's your secret sauce here? Raising all this money and doing great work. How do you go about doing that?
I am not embarrassed to sound desperate. At my job, I work for a law firm, and there's a community forum where you're allowed to post. And literally, in order to catch people's attention, my headline was, "Give Evelyn Gomez money!" exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. And it catches people's attention. And I do have to say that I work in a really great place. My coworkers are very supportive, and I actually drum up a lot of funds from the workplace. One person will give $5, the next person will give $20, the next person will give $100, and it all makes a difference. And after a while, it just adds up. And I know some people are like, "Oh, here's Evelyn again," and that's okay.
But I think you hit on it earlier. And for a cause like that, and I think once people look into the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation and see all the great work that they're doing,
Definitely.
and bringing new procedures and new therapies to the market, it's easy to give to an organization like that.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, you said it perfectly, that everyone knows someone.
Yes.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we've been doing this for quite some time, the last couple of years at Healthy h360, and we run into people all the time, and there's always somebody has a story. It's either a relative or a friend, a loved one, but everybody knows somebody.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
And no donation is too small. So
Yes,
$1,
that's
$5.
right.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you mentioned earlier that your husband this year ran with you for the
Yes.
5K. Do your friends or family also run with you as well, or maybe some of your coworkers? Have you gotten anyone from work also involved with Damon Runyon?
I'm working on it.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I go by people's doors and I personally thank them, and part of the reason why I personally thank them is to sort of encourage them passively to come join me the following year. My coworker was actually this close to running with me, and then she went and got pregnant, so there that went. But in addition to my husband running with me this year, I also had a couple of friends from Syracuse who came down, Tammy and Allie, and they ran with me as well. Tammy had lost her father to cancer, and Tammy's son Dante is actually my husband's godson. So it's sort of like a family affair there.
Yeah.
Last year, my friend Taisha, who had helped me after my surgery and who had lost her mother to breast cancer, I convinced her to come run with me because why shouldn't she?
Right.
And my sister-in-law, the wife of my brother-in-law, she did it as a walker. So I've got a lot of people telling me they're going to do it next year. We'll see how many of them actually carry through, but every year my team gets a little bit bigger.
All right, well, we'll be sure to check in and make sure they're all accountable and running with you.
I hope you do. And if you guys want to join my team, I'm just saying.
Oh,
Okay.
just put us on blast like that. Right?
Put us down. Courtland will be there with her sneakers. Well, you
No
know,
pressure.
it's not every day that we have a celebrity in the studio such as yourself. And I understand New York won, right? Queen's Person of the Week. Tell me about that.
Being the Queen's Person of the Week is a bit strange, to be honest, you know, because you think, gosh, I try to convince people that I was really Queen of the Week, but it's really the Queen's Person of the Week. And then once the jig was up, it wasn't quite as. But that was really, it was surprising when I had gotten the offer, but it was also very, I was happy because it gave me just one more chance to get the word out and let people know what a great organization that Damon Runyon is, how important it is that we support not just organizations like the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation, but also, you know, fellow cancer survivors and people who have been touched by cancer. And, you know, the only way we're going to get to the bottom of this is if we all join together and, you know, we really decide to fight back.
Yeah.
Well, Evelyn, having known you for only a short period of time, you seem like an incredibly inspiring person, someone who's not going to let anything get them down. Can you give a little bit of advice for anyone out there who's newly diagnosed with cancer?
Sure. I mean, thank you for telling me I'm inspiring. I always find it a little weird when people say that to me because I don't know if I'm inspiring. I just run around Yankee Stadium. I mean, you guys can all join me and run around Yankee Stadium too, you know. But I think having a great support system, I'm fortunate enough to have a great support system. Like I said, my husband is my best friend, but it's also my family members and the people I call my family who aren't related by blood, because family comes in all shapes and sizes. Really, really liking your doctors and feeling like you have some sort of connection with them. I mean, I love my oncologist, Dr. Malamud, thanks so much. I think that, is he the perfect fit for everyone? Probably not, but nobody's a perfect fit for everyone, but he was definitely a good fit for me. If your doctor's not a good fit for you, if you dread going to your appointments because you don't like your doctor, get another doctor, because you know, it's really important to have that open connection that you can ask whatever you want.
Yeah, that's really important. I think people don't know you can change doctors.
Yes.
You know, if you don't like this person, find someone else.
Yes.
That's
and
okay.
medicine is not a perfect science. People think they go to the doctor and they're automatically going to know everything, but that's not true. Different doctors know different things. Maybe, you know, I didn't even know there were multiple kinds of breast cancer. I thought it was just breast cancer. But maybe the doctor that you end up with is not a specialist for your particular kind of breast cancer. It's not, don't be embarrassed to ask questions. And I also feel it's important to point out, especially as a librarian, there's something called information overload. Don't jump on the internet and start reading every single article you can get a hold on, you know, because A, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and B, especially since there are multiple kinds of cancers out there, you may be doing all this research for something that doesn't actually apply to you at all. Let the doctor do his job.
Yeah.
So, great point, 2 great points, right? And we hear that all the time. People go to the internet, they go to Dr. Google, and they end up depressed. I mean, you know, some of the things that are out there, the content that's out there, it's wrong, it's misleading. So your point is well taken, and we hear it so much. The other point you mentioned that I want to focus in on a little bit is the support system. And the caregivers are really the unsung heroes,
It's
right?
true.
And it is so important to have a caregiver that can go to the appointments with you and take notes, because when you're that patient and you're going through the journey, and especially when you're first diagnosed and you hear those 3 words, you have cancer, you know, the rest of it is wah, wah, you know, your head starts to spin.
Yes.
And in your case, you're a new mother.
Yep.
Right, so all of a sudden you're like, what does this mean, and And so the caregiver plays such an important role in that whole equation, and they are really, we say they're the unsung heroes in the healthcare equation.
It's true. It's true. And I find that I like to think of myself as fairly independent. I can do it. And so when someone offers you help, your first reaction is to say, no, that's okay, I got it. But especially in a situation like this, when you're diagnosed with cancer, stop yourself and say, yes, thank you, I'd love your help. And the other thing, too, is sometimes it's very surprising where that help comes from. The people that you think are going to be the most supportive may not necessarily be the most supportive, and it's that person that you haven't connected with in 2 years who finds out you had a diagnosis, but she just went through it with a friend and comes running to your door and knocks on it and says, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
So, there's no such thing as a little bit of help, because any kind of help is help, even if it's just somebody washing the dishes while you put your feet up because today happened to be a treatment day. It all makes a difference. So you're not lowering your standards by opening the door.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a very good point.
So I have to ask, so running is one stress reliever for you. What are some of the other things that you do just to kind of decompress at the end of the day and, take time for yourself?
Right. I hate to sound, stereotypical, but I like to read, so the librarian. And spending time with my family.
Yeah.
My son is a really big part of my life. My husband is a really big part of my life. People tease me all the time because I just went to a librarian conference in Chicago and I had to take them with me because I didn't want them to not be there, and I've had friends who say, oh, I can't wait to go on a girls' night, a girls' trip away, and I'm happy that that's what makes you happy, but I need my fellows.
Yeah.
So family time is really important. We also have a cat. I should include our cat because my son would be very upset if I didn't include Haley. She's part of the family.
Haley,
We like to spend time with Haley too.
Big shout out to Haley.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. So lots of family-based things we do, out and about, and Coney Island is a favorite over the summer, and museums and a lot of family stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love Coney Island.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so we know that you're going to run next year. So where do we go to sign up to run with you?
So the Damon Runyon Cancer Research Foundation has a link. The last time when I first heard about this, there was a news broadcast talking about the 5K at Yankee Stadium. I thought, great, that's a perfect fit for me. I went to their website, and they allow you to sign up for alerts. And they also do things like have discount theater tickets. So if you're not very active, maybe there's another way that you can find an in with the organization to help. So definitely visit the website, take a look and see what kinds of information they have on there, see what a great foundation they are, sign up for the alerts, and as it comes close to race time, check your email because they'll send you one.
Absolutely. Well, Evelyn, we covered a lot of ground today. Any final words for our audience? Any final thoughts that we can wrap up on?
Oh gosh. Don't forget to love yourself. Say thank you and please and I love you as much as you can. Self-examination is extremely important. Don't be embarrassed to ask questions because there's no such thing as a stupid question, just a question that doesn't end up getting an answer.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, Evelyn, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your story with us today. I would like to thank you for tuning in and watching us, and I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this all possible. Remember, all of our episodes can be viewed on demand at healthyo360.com, and our podcast can always be found in the iTunes store.
Well, we love social media, and we're all over Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest using the hashtag #RealStories when posting, and we'd greatly appreciate it if you would do the same. On behalf of Dave Duplay, myself, and the entire Healthyo360 family, we'd like to thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
I never had